Okay. So in the previous session, we discussed about the database internals, like how the data will be organized internally, how the data will be managed logically, and how the data will be managed physically. So all these things we discussed in the previous session. Nagesh, please ping me in the WhatsApp once. Nagesh, can you hear me? Okay, fine. Right. So in today's session, what we will do is, okay, we are going to discuss creating the tables. Like yesterday we discussed it, right? If I want to create any table, first of all, we should know how the data will be organized. So if you go to the logical hierarchy, in the SQL server will have databases. Inside the databases will have what? Inside the data in the logical hierarchy, inside the databases, what will have?
Seema?
Schemas. Very good. Okay. Inside the databases, you'll have schemas, and inside the schemas, okay, you'll have the tables. This is how the data will be organized logically. Okay. Physically, how the data will be organized physically, guys? Can anyone tell me how the data will be organized physically in the SQL server?
Instance,
Instance, then,
database.
then,
Data file.
then. Okay, that's it. At least little keywords. Yesterday we discussed a lot of keywords, right? At least important words. Can't you recollect where the table will be stored? Where the table will be stored physically? Yes, you don't want to answer or you're not able to recollect. A small question I'm asking. Yesterday I spent around 2 hours.
Pages extent.
Pages, right? So how the data will be organized physically? So in the SQL server will have databases. Inside the databases will have file groups and log file, and inside the file
File.
groups you will have data files.
Data
Okay,
file.
and inside the data files you will have extents, and inside the extents you will have pages. Okay,
Pages.
so page is a basic allocation, sorry, page is a basic storage unit in the SQL server. Page size is 8 KB, right? What is an extent? Extent is a basic allocation in the SQL server, basic allocation unit in the SQL server. And also we can call it as extent is nothing but collection of 8 data pages. So extent size is dash. What is the size of the
64.
extent? 64 KB, 8 pages, 8
64 code.
So 64 KB. We have two types of extents. Can anyone tell me what are those two types of extents?
Mixed and
Mixed
uniform.
extent, uniform. Mixed
Extent
and
and
uniform.
uniform extent. So whenever you are creating a table, from which extent it will allocate? For the first allocation, from the dash extent.
Mixed.
It will
Mixed
allocate a
extent.
page from the mixed extent, and the subsequent allocations will be from the uniform extent. Okay, so all these things we covered in the previous session. Right. So in today's session, we'll discuss the basics like creating the tables, inserting some records inside the table, retrieving the data from the table, like few queries, like kind of select query, insert query. Okay, all these things will be discussed. This is just basics. Generally, as a DBA, we don't create any tables. Generally, developers will create, or from the application logic, from the business logic. Okay, the tables will be created automatically. and we don't insert the data also generally from the application. Right now, at least you have an idea how the data will comes. If any user is connected and if he is doing some business like placing an order or something he is doing, automatically data will be generated. So we don't create the tables in the organization, first thing. Second thing, we don't insert any data. This is only for the basics, just basics. How we'll create the table, how we'll insert the data, how we will retrieve the data, how the where condition will work. Okay, how to filter the data using where class. These basics and all will be covered, guys. After that, we'll discuss about the system databases. Okay, right. So most of you know that like how to create the tables and all. Okay, but we'll discuss. Okay. So I'll show you in both the ways how to create the tables using GUI as well as using query also. Okay, right. So if I want to create a table, yesterday we discussed it, right? What I should have, guys? I should have a database. Okay, so yesterday we have created the databases and we have discussed all the options while creating the database. What kind of options and all will get it? We have already discussed, guys. Okay. How many files will get it when you create a database? How many files will get it when you create a database?
2 files.
What are,
32,767.
how many files will get when you create a database? I'm not asking how many maximum
files.
files we can add.
2 files.
What are those 2 files?
2 files, logs files. Log file and data file.
Okay, what is the extension of data file and log file?
Dot MDF and
Dot,
DF,
dot,
LDF, MDF.
yeah, dot MDF and dot LDF. Dot MDF is for data file, dot LDF is for log file. So by default, when you create a database, you will get these 2 files. How many MDF files I can add to a database? Type your answers in the chat quickly. How many MDF master data files I can add to the database? Type your answers in the chat quickly. How many MDF files, master data files? The question is how many MDF files? Okay. So what is the answer, guys? Why only 3, 4 people are responding? What about others? Don't want to respond? A database can have maximum of one MDF file. Okay, just one MDF file. If that is full, generally we'll add NDF files, next data files. Okay, so the answer is 1. A database can have only one MDF file. Okay, if that is not sufficient, as I said, if it is growing, still the drive is also, we cannot extend. In such scenario, we can add the NDF files, next data files or new data files. Okay, so a database can have maximum of only one MDF file. You can have multiple NDF files, you can have multiple LDF files also, but MDF file is only one per database, right? So this is how the files will be managed in the SQL Server, guys. Now, if I want to create a table in any of the database, generally you can open a query window from that database, because when you are writing a queries, either you can just click on new query window and you can change the query window. Like for example, I just selected the A to B database and I just selected the new query. So a session will be opened from the A to B database, guys. So in case if you want to do something in the A to B database, either to create the object means tables, either to create the object, or you want to insert some values inside the objects, or you want to retrieve the data from the objects or tables, or you want to modify something. So in which database your objects are there, your tables are there, okay, you have to open a query window from that particular database. I want to create a table in the A to B database. So what I have to do? I have to open a session from the A to B database. Very simple. So suddenly, if you change this database context to Haldiram's, that means you are trying to do something in the Haldiram's database. Okay. So it is very, very important. Like last time I told you, right? Whenever you are executing any query, mainly you have to check two things. One is you have to parse it before executing the query. And second is very, very, very important thing, on which database you are running that query. On which database you are running that query. It's very important. So if I want to create the table inside the A to B, I can simply select the A to B database, and you can see a query window will open from the A to B database. So this work area belongs to A to B database. You can execute something, either create statement or insert statement or delete statement or alter statement or select statement, whatever. You can execute something here in this work area. Later you want to shift to some other database, okay? Then you can change the database here, and then you can write the queries, so that whatever queries that you are executing here, so the particular queries will be executed on that particular database, guys. So whenever you are running any queries, single query, a single command also, always keep an eye on the database, on which database you are running this particular query. You can see here, okay? You can see here, you can see here also, on which database you're executing that particular query and all. It is very important, believe me. Even experienced people also in the overlook, sometimes they don't, okay, change the database. So instead of one database, they will create the objects from another database. It's okay, creating doesn't create any problem, okay? But while deleting, instead of one database, if you delete the object from another database, very risky, right? So people lost their jobs. This is very simple thing and silly thing. And sometimes in the overlook also we will miss it. That is true. But you have to be like aware of this one, guys. Whenever you're executing any query, on which database you're executing that query, it's very, very, very important. So it's very crucial thing while executing the queries, first of all. So now if I want to change in GUI way, if you want to change the database context, you will change like this in GUI way. You can also do the same thing using command also, okay? There is a command for that to change the database context. So the simple command, use database name, okay? I want to change it to A to B, okay? Use A to B. So if you execute, see, for executing, generally you can click on this execute button. I was more comfortable with the keyboard shortcut Alt X, Alt plus X. So I'll execute using that Alt X keyboard shortcut. Okay. So now see here, command completed successfully, and see the context is changed from Haldirams to A to B. So in this way, you can able to change the database context. Okay. Either through GUI or through query. Okay. If it is query, you can simply use a keyword called use database name. Okay. I just want to change my context from Haldirams to A to B. So use A to B. So now if I want to change it to some Omkar DB, what is the command? I want to change the context to Omkar DB. It is a command. Use
Use Hongar DB.
use Omkar DB. Okay.